Hey y'all, I'm Robin Barnes, the New Orleans Songbird, and we are here for the making of Super Bowl 59 at the beautiful Superdome. This will be the 11th Super Bowl in New Orleans. New Orleans is known for its vibrant culture, rich history, and amazing music, if I do say so myself. In this series, we're going to show you how the Super Bowl comes to life. This time, we're talking sustainability at the Super Bowl. First, we'll talk to Jack and Susan Groh, directors of NFL Green, which has been working to reduce the environmental impact of the National Football League for 30 years. Then, we'll talk to Chincie Mouton, director of community engagement for the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation and the Super Bowl 59 host committee, about how the host committee works with NFL Green to leave a legacy of sustainability in New Orleans. Finally, we'll talk to Elizabeth Adams, Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Officer at Entergy, about how Entergy is partnering with the Super Bowl 59 host committee to reduce the environmental impact of Super Bowl 59. Let's dive in. So, Jack Groh, thank you so much for being here. Tell us about the NFL Green.
Well, we started 31 years ago.
Wow.
With this concept of trying to look at the environmental impact of a sporting event. And the NFL was the first professional sports league that ever even thought about what their environmental impact is in a community. And then we started to look at everything. You get waste, you got food waste, you got leftover materials. You have all these things that impact the environment. And year by year, we started to create programs to address each one of those.
That's amazing. So what does your role entail as director?
Well, my role basically is to get my hands dirty and to go out and work on projects. We all, actually do hands-on kind of stuff. But we go into a city maybe a year, sometimes a year and a half in advance, and we try and see what are the opportunities, what are the needs. So, for instance, the greening programs that we're working on here in New Orleans and that we work on in every city, they're based on what that community needs, not based on what we want to do, but based on what does the community need. And that's why we have specific projects for specific communities based on what that community says they need.
That's amazing. So when y'all started, you said 31 years ago.
Yeah.
That is amazing, first of all. How do you feel like when it started and how have you honestly just evolved from there?
That's a good word to use because it has evolved as we've looked and found. The very first year, all we did was solid waste recycling. But nobody'd ever done that in the stadiums. Nobody had ever recycled waste in a stadium.
Really?
Yeah, 1993. It had never happened at a sports event. So we set up a recycling program. Then we looked and we saw all the food that was getting thrown away in the dumpsters. But this was food not from leftover tables. This was food coming right out of the kitchens and into the dumpsters.
Oh, wow.
So we set up the first prepared food program. So that would go to soup kitchens, churches, shelters, and other places. Now that's become common for sports events. But back then, nobody had thought to do it. And then a year or two later, we looked at all the materials. When Super Bowl is all set up in the city, you see the banners, you see the flags, you see the fence wrappings, you'll see the construction that's done, you'll see all the new places that are carpeted just for a couple of days. Well, all that stuff gets recovered and then donated to local nonprofits and schools and church, whoever can use that material rather than throw it away. So that's how it's evolved gradually, but just by looking and saying, what can we do next? And that's why we ended up getting into community greening. That's been going on now for 22 years. And this will be the fourth time that we've done a greening program in New Orleans.
So as far as sustainability, obviously the economical impact of something like this size is such a thumbprint, if you think.
Yeah.
But the aspect of what your impact is from the green aspect, what is the sustainability from now and how does that change from year to year from each city?
Well, I'll give you an example from Miami. We looked into what was needed there. Well, coral reef destruction is the biggest environmental issue in Miami. So we got together with a group of retired Navy combat divers, along with federal agencies, state agencies, and others, and we put together a consortium to go out and actually rebuild one of the reefs with some new types of coral that are resistant to climate change. We went out to Los Angeles the year after that. Coral is not a big deal out there, but kelp forest destruction is. So we got the same divers and different partners out there and worked on rebuilding a kelp forest. We went to Arizona and we removed invasive species from the Salt River in Phoenix. So now what are we doing here? Susan will talk more about the big project we're doing. The biggest one will be building an oyster shell reef down in Leeville, because that's what's needed here. So that's the way we approach it. What does that community, what does that community tell us they need? and it's the most important need there, along with trees, because New Orleans has been hit by so many storms and lost so many trees that there's always a need to replant trees here as well.
Thank you so much, Jack, for talking with me, and I am looking forward to talking to Susan.
Oh, she's the good one. She's the good one.
So Susan, 31 years, this is amazing. You are traveling to all the host cities. What are you doing special in New Orleans?
So we are doing some great projects here in New Orleans. Today we are kicking off our community greening initiatives around Super Bowl, starting with the planting of 32 trees, one for each NFL team. Of course, the Saints are the first tree we're going to plant. And then from here, we're also passing the golden shovel from the last Super Bowl host city to this one. And half of the trees that are planted here today were actually gifted from Las Vegas.
Wow.
So very great initiative. We love this one. We have students out here to help plant and volunteers. We'll be getting a lot done along the Lafitte Greenway to provide some shade and some cooling and some storm mitigation here. From there, on Friday, we're going to be bagging 59 tons of oyster shells that have been collected by local restaurants.
Oh, my goodness.
And we're going to use those during Super Bowl week to do a great coastal restoration project down in Leeville. So working with Navy SEALs and with CRCL down there, and we'll be building a reef out of oyster shells. New oysters will grow on that, so a really cool project. And then we'll be planting marsh grass behind that. We're also going to be planting trees at Hardin Park and doing hundreds of trees, huge planting up along Lake Pontchartrain's coast shoreline.
That's amazing. So with this project, I mean, you're able to almost change it to every city.
Every Super Bowl host community has its own environmental issues it's working on. We know here, coastline erosion is huge. Storm mitigation is really important here. So the coastal restoration project we're doing will be our biggest one for this Super Bowl. But trees are needed in every community. That's the number one request we get. Everybody wants to cool things down, provide more shade and beauty, and help mitigate stormwater. So trees are super important. So excited to be here in this beautiful area along the Lafitte Greenway to start everything off. And then it just picks up from here. Lots going on during Super Bowl week.
Amazing. Susan, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for doing what you're doing for New Orleans and the coastal restoration. It is something that is needed. So thank you for starting this and being a part of it.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys, we're with Chincie Mouton, the Director of Community Engagement for the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So the NFL Green Project, tell me more about this.
So we at the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation, of course, we're the Super Bowl host committee, and we're working very closely with the NFL Green team to implement environmental projects. So we have a number of different things that we're doing here in the community that's related to tree planting and coastal restoration. So we're really excited to get those projects underway. We recently had the passing of the Golden Shovel event where we were able to plant 32 trees representing the 32 NFL teams at the Lafitte Greenway.
So how are local organizations involved with creating a sustainable Super Bowl?
We're working with a number of different local organizations here in New Orleans to really implement our sustainability and environmental projects. So we're working with a group called CRCL, so Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana. We're also working with the Pontchartrain Conservancy. There's also another group that we worked with at Lafitte Greenway, Soul. So there's so many different organizations here that are committed to this work and that do it every single day to really progress our city and to make sure that we're sustaining our environment.
That's amazing.
One of the great things about working with the NFL Green team is that they really tap into the local community and identify organizations so that they don't have to recreate the wheel, right? We know that there's people like the CRCL, Pontchartrain Conservancy, who are already doing this work every single day. So they really rely on these organizations to say, hey, what's important to your community? What type of projects do you want to implement? And then they provide funding and resources so that we can bring these projects to life.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's great to think you are investing in the city. This is something that's going to be long-lasting of a partnership, continuing to the betterment of green infrastructure, storm management. This is absolutely cool.
Absolutely. Another project that we have is at Hardin Park. So we're going to do some tree plantings there. But the reason that we really chose Hardin Park is because we know it's so important to the community. It's in a historic landmark, and it's so close to St. Aug High School and Dillard University. So we're really looking to tap into some of their students and invite them out so that this is truly a community-felt event.
Thank you so much for just representing our community, helping establish that partnership between the local organizations with the NFL, creating this partnership that is going to be long lasting for our community. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for representing us.
Thank you for representing us.
Hey y'all, we're here with Elizabeth Adams, Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Officer with Entergy. Thank you so much for being with us today.
So happy to be here.
So tell us, what is your role with the host committee?
So I am the sustainability chair for the host committee. And so we are bringing all the community partners together to emphasize sustainability, do education on sustainability, and to have cool events all throughout the host communities to make sure that we're leaving a legacy after the Super Bowl.
Love it. So tell me, what is Entergy's plan with the host committee and events?
So Entergy is the founding partner of the host committee. And as the only Fortune 500 company headquartered in New Orleans and as such a part of this community, it's really an opportunity for us to continue to invest not only in this awesome event, but in all of our communities for years to come. So it's a really great merger of our mission of We Power Life, and we're going to be powering the Super Bowl, and we're going to continue to make sure that we're having a focus on sustainability and longevity in our communities.
Amazing.
Cool, right?
That's so cool. So tell me, Elizabeth, with the role of sustainability, I mean, in such a major event, how is that involving with the Super Bowl?
So when you think about the Super Bowl, I mean, one of the largest sporting events in the world, right? And so all eyes are going to be on New Orleans as we host this incredible event. We have such a track record of hosting events so well and being such a hospitable city. So when we think about sustainability, it's really a platform to show that we can have these celebratory events and we can do it in an environmentally conscious way. We can educate people on the types of things that we're looking at. We're working on material recovery as it relates to recycling of all the materials that come in and help build up the Super Bowl. Food recovery as we think about all the delicious food that we're going to be serving to all of our guests, which we're so known for, but how we can make sure that we're being sustainable on that front. And then energy sustainability as well. So, for us, we serve the community of New Orleans with their power, and we have such a diverse and clean fleet as it is. And so we're really going to be focusing on how can we educate people about the nuclear power that powers the city, the renewables, and how those things come together to make for a low energy profile from an emissions perspective.
So tell me more about what are the initiatives you guys are going to be doing?
So we've been doing a lot of community events. So we've already had several. We had a community tree planting at Lafitte Greenway where we planted 32 trees, one for each of the football teams in the NFL. We didn't name them. We were worried that if we had a tree that was dedicated to the Atlanta Falcons,
it'd get cut down.
Yeah, so we'd have some sort of terrible event. But there were 32 trees for the 32 teams. And so that was great with a lot of partnership with our community partners and with NFL Green. And we had an oyster bagging event. So we are going to be taking 59 tons of oyster shells from New Orleans and Baton Rouge restaurants. And we're going to be replanting that on the coastline down in Leeville, Louisiana, down in the bayou. And that is going to be building an oyster reef. It's going to be protecting the coast from storm surges, protecting from coastal erosion. And that's going to be an incredible project as well. So lots of tons of oysters are going to be implanted and on the coastline during Super Bowl week, and really cool things like that. We have a couple more tree planting events that are going to be happening, one on the North Shore, one in Hardin Park. So just beautifying our city, investing in their sustainability, and making sure that we bring all the partners together to get involved.
I love that. I think with NFL Green and just trying to do more for the lasting effects and impact after the Super Bowl. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're investing in a legacy here. And so whether it's, reducing urban heat with our trees in Lafitte Greenway, or thinking about how we can reuse turf to make sure that kids can play on that in the future, there's some really cool things that is happening in the sustainability space.
So Elizabeth, tell me, how can Super Bowl set an example of sustainability and the impact in projects on a larger scale?
Absolutely. So when you think about the scale of this event, when you think about the millions of viewers who are going to be tuning in and all of the stakeholders who are so excited, it gives us a platform to be able to lead by example and show that we can incorporate sustainability in a number of ways in all of these events and still have a successful and celebratory outcome. And so, bringing in, highlighting that environmental stewardship is a really important part of planning and executing an event of this size.
is just such an incredible way to lead by example, show future Super Bowls that they can do it. And also provide a framework for the types of events that we host. I mean, New Orleans is such a destination city for huge events, whether it's conventions or sporting events. And so being able to highlight the good work that's already been done and reimagine how we can go even further, it's a great platform.
That's amazing. So my favorite question, what do you love about your job?
So I love everything about my job. I have the privilege of working with teams that are focused on growing our local economies by attracting business and providing a foundation for economic development and growth, and then also providing an exceptional customer experience to all of our customers. So whether it's call centers or our apps and making sure that it's easy to use. I love that when we think about Entergy's mission of powering life, that I get to be part of that ecosystem. And that we get to make sure that, whether it's my grandparents or our hospitals that are, locally supported, or major businesses that, employ so many of our people, that we're all touching them and giving them an exceptional experience. So it's a pretty great job.
It sounds like a fascinating and very fulfilling job.
Very fulfilling. I'm very lucky.
Is there anything you would like to add?
No, other than I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. And, we have some volunteer events that are coming up, and there's so many ways that people can get involved in being part of this exciting event. And I'm just excited for the next couple of weeks to pass. So
love it. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us and sharing about the amazing initiatives that you have going on with Entergy. So guys, thank you so much again for tuning in. We have Elizabeth Adams with Entergy.
Thank you so much.
The host committee would like to thank our founding partners, Entergy and Chevron. Our sponsors. Each of these companies plays an integral role in the overall success of the New Orleans Super Bowl host committee. We couldn't do it without you.